Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
What is going on, everybody? I go by RB, and this is Philly Take with RB. You guys know what to do. Go ahead and smash that like button for me. Hit the subscribe if you're new, and ding that notification bell so you're instantly notified whenever I upload or go live. Today, we are back to discuss some Philadelphia 76ers. But first and foremost, we have some news to talk about. Number one, the Sixers preseason schedule has been released. We are, just under a month away from the start of the season, and the Sixers are going to be playing two preseason games. One on December 15th against the Celtics and the other on the 18th against the Indiana Pacers. We got two preseason games, and then 5 days later, we're hopping right into NBA action. It's crazy. I cannot wait. December 22nd cannot come fast enough. I'm eager to see how they do the schedule and how this season plays out, but man, I cannot wait. So be sure to have the notifications on. We're going to be covering it all here on the channel. Going forward to the second piece of news, the Philadelphia 76ers, as you might have saw yesterday on my community post, have signed Derrick Walton Jr. to a one-year deal. Derrick Walton Jr., 25 years old, undrafted out of Michigan a couple years back. He's going to come in and give you a few minutes here and there. He's going to try to make the roster. But again, like I said with Ryan Brokoff a couple days ago, I really don't see Walton making the roster. And if he does, he'll probably be like an end-of-the-rotation type of guy. But he's just another shooter with some potential upside who may come in and find himself a spot on this roster. But it's going to be hard. He did play under Doc Rivers this past year for part of the season in LA. Shot 43% from three, but again, really did not have a lot of shot attempts, did not get to play that much. So he's really just, a low risk type of guy. You bring him in and see what he can do. Just another camp body, as they would call it, and a guy who's been able to, show before that he can knock down. So we'll see what happens with that. In addition to that, just about an hour or two ago, the Sixers go out and re-sign Justin Anderson, small forward. I think Justin Anderson was with this team for parts of 2 seasons. I know the last time I remember him was years back in 17 and 18 when we went on that hot streak at the end of the year. Justin Anderson, he used to play like 10, 15 minutes a night. Really didn't do much. Could not shoot that much. But he was a little scrappy defender. He was one of those vets you just bring in, and he's going to be on the bench clapping it up. I mean, this Derrick Walton Jr., they called him, Mr. 120 claps a game, apparently. Justin Anderson used to be that guy for us. Just on the bench, getting hype, getting everybody riled up. The guys love him in the locker room. That's pretty much what he was. He's another one. I don't know if he's going to make this roster. I would highly doubt it. But I think Justin Anderson is being brought in here mainly to be competition in camp, mainly to get some of these other young guys motivated and inspired and wanting to be better and do better to ensure that they find themselves a spot on this roster. But Justin Anderson's a good vet to just bring in here and kind of increase the competition and get other guys to come out of their comfort zones a little bit. I remember Justin Anderson, the last good memory I have is when he was getting scrappy with D Wade in that series a couple years back. I think he was a first round pick, right? Yeah, he was a first round pick, and he just never panned out. So we'll see what happens with him. We'll see what happens with Walton. But overall, and this kind of brings me to our point of the video, the Sixers are recreating the 2017-18 Sixers, but adding a twist. They are making it better, and we're going to talk about why. Right now, it's just crazy to think about how the Sixers, Daryl Morey, has not only reversed the 5 steps in the wrong direction that this team and this front office committed last year, but he's already taken 4 or 5 steps in the right direction, right? You go back to 2017, 2018. This Sixers team, if you remember at the end of that season, after they go and pick up Marco Bellinelli, after they go and pick up Ilyasova, right? They got JJ Redick, Covington. All they did was take 2 young stars. Obviously, they weren't, to the point they're at now, but they took 2 stars and surrounded them with tons of shooting, tons of floor spacing, and Ben was playing the pure point, and he was setting these guys up, and Joel Embiid was just eating down low when he was healthy. And this Sixers team ended up going on a 16-game win streak to end the season. They were hot as can be, but when we got to the playoffs, what happened, right? You can't just rely on two guys, especially one of the stars in Ben Simmons that could not shoot, right? Brad Stevens was the first guy to figure him out and really just made a wall, really just built a wall, and Ben Simmons could not penetrate anymore. He had to dish out, and his mental was completely messed up. But his entire rookie year, I mean, it was hard to stop. And guys already knew what he was trying to do with the ball. But again, when you get to the playoffs, you need another guy. You need a third guy who's going to step in and be able to handle the ball, who's going to be able to take some of the duties away. And now that is the difference between this 17 and 18 roster and the one upcoming this year. We're adding tons of shooting, right? We got Seth Curry, who's looking fantastic on some of these videos I'm seeing. A lot of people are down on Danny Green, but when you talk about getting Al Horford out of here and bringing in Danny Green, a guy who has shot over 40% for his career, well, guess what? I think that is a good signing. And he's another shooter who can space the floor. Ben Simmons is going to draw on defenders and kick it out, and we're going to rely on Danny Green to hit some shots, as well as Seth Curry, as well as some of these other guys, okay? Isaiah Joe, who they just signed as well to a 2 or 3 year deal. But listen, now we have Tobias Harris, right? That was the difference. We got Tobias Harris to come in and be not a third star, but really a complementary piece, one of the perfect complementary pieces with Ben and Joe. And last year, a lot of people were critical of Tobias, but I really think that under this system now, I think he's going to thrive. I do, because look, people got to remember, we've only seen Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid under Brett Brown's offense, and that guy couldn't figure out offense if it was a brick that hit him in the head. He really couldn't. You take that now, you had a guy like Tobias Harris who was becoming his best version, the guy that earned a max contract under Doc Rivers in LA, and you plug that in here, and you plug in 2 stars in their mid-20s who are getting better and better. Ben's an all-defensive player now. Joel Embiid is a monster. You add those guys in around Tobias Harris, and look, Tobias Harris isn't one of these crazy stars in the league, but I know he can create his own. I know he can get his bucket. I know he can operate in pick and roll. But this last year, the reason he regressed is because he wasn't being utilized to his strengths. He was basically a spot-up shooter at times, and other times he's just isoing back and forth in space at the top of the key. No, that is not Tobias Harris, and I think Doc's going to put him in the right situations. Now, a guy we obviously miss is J.J. Redick, but listen, J.J. was a glue guy. He was a consistent shooter. That was the thing. As much as people like Rocco, I'm sorry, he was not consistent enough. On defense, now the guy was an all-elite defender. I really appreciated his defense. But when the big moments came, Covington would have a 2 for 10 game, a 2 for 12 game. That can't happen, and the biggest thing about it wasn't even that. It was when we got to the playoffs, Rocco is a forward that never learned how to put the ball on the floor. Now, maybe he's developing it a little bit later on in his career, but with the Sixers, the guy could barely dribble for anything, and he would just get plucked. He was literally a spot-up shooter as our small forward, and that can't happen. We needed another ball handler, and I think that's where Tobias Harris comes in. Shooting, obviously, we're not going to match a guy like JJ, like I said, but look, Seth Curry and Danny Green is going to make up for a lot of the spacing issues that we had last year. Al Horford's out of here. We got a rookie like Tyrese Maxey, who, although his shot may not be fully developed yet, he's going to be a dog. He's going to hustle, and we got Isaiah Joe. We have another, big up-tempo big man like Paul Reed, who might get a chance, might get some minutes, right? Dwight Howard is going to be able to man the paint when Joe goes out. I think the Sixers are building this 2017-18 identity, but just shaping it a little bit different. And again, you can tell me that coaching doesn't matter in the NBA. Well, I'll tell you something. When you compile a staff of Doc Rivers, Dave Yeager, Sam Cassell, and a bunch of assistants, guys like Dan Burke, who have had defensive, emphasis and prowess for a long, long time in the NBA, you are doing something right. I think we're going to be a defensive team, but I think we are also bringing sufficient shooting in so that we can knock down shots. I think it's going to be harder to guard Ben and Joe. I think Doc is going to have these boys in the right situation. You're not going to see these little mental lapses. You're not going to see these bad errors night in and night out. No. That will be corrected. That will be fixed. And the biggest thing overall is when we had Covington, when we had Sarge, we didn't have a plan until the next year, right? We came in, we traded for Jimmy Butler, which I thought was a perfect complementary piece with these boys. But again, the team was so talented, but they only went to the second round because Brett couldn't figure it out. He could not figure it out. Based on talent, you give me that roster with another head coach, a more competent one, that team might win the finals, to be honest. I'm just being straight up with you. Jimmy Butler obviously leaves, but you still have Tobias Harris, even though we know he's overpaid, but you can afford to bring in some of these shooters. And like I said, the thing is, now we have a plan. We are lining up for something big, whether it's during this season, whether it's in the historic free agent class of next season. The Sixers are lining up to put themselves in the best position to land a big three. And it might not be the star that you think. It might be a nice compliment piece like a Zach LaVine. But this team is setting themselves up for success, not just now, and this might be a bold statement, but for a 3 to 4 year window where a championship may be very viable. Look, I'm telling you guys, this team is going to look like 2017 and 18 all over again, but with a different spin, with a different twist. You're not going to see guys like Trevor Booker, Justin Anderson, scrubs like Jared Bayless on this team. No, you're going to see vets. You're going to see young guys who want it, who are hungry, and you're going to see the right system in place. This Sixers team is going to be special, mark my words, for the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. In just a few weeks, a competent GM like Daryl Morey has undid the past mistakes of the Sixers front office and ownership, and guess what? He has us in a position to fire away when the opportunity is right. This Sixers team is going to be special. You guys, let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one, man. Peace.
Perfect.